Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we're going to have a look at a Linux distro review. People said you should do more of those, and I'm trying to find a hybrid balance where I can download some at coffee shops to not exceed my bandwidth and still get some of these done. And I did mean to do this one yesterday, but I was putting together a cell phone for somebody, and wanted to get that sent out, and we got all the things done, and there were some questions on the account numbers and all that fun stuff, so kind of ran out of time yesterday. But today we're going to look at Ubuntu Christian Edition. Yes, this is an older distro that has been out there and around, but it is back. It is now based on a new version, and the person who originally created the project passed it off to some other people. It kind of got left behind in a few things, and so it went a few Ubuntu versions without being updated, and they are back at the helm and back to releasing a good distribution. Now, of course, I took interest in this one because I am a Christian. I do have a Christian resource as well called ourwalkinchrist.com. There is a YouTube channel, there's a YouTube channel associated with this and a Rumble channel associated with it. We used to have BitChute. There were issues with that. I took that one down. We might go back to that soon, and we might be able to get onto Library soon as we just crossed the 1,000 subscriber mark over there. You have a look over at ourwalkinchrist.com, though, and I have written several books, so you can get information on those if you are into the Christian things. But with that, let's go ahead and look at the distribution itself. So this is Ubuntu CE.com. It is not meant to be anything more. It's like not meant to be a rebranding or just a version, a Linux version that is highly modified. It's really meant to have the exact same feel as Ubuntu so that people can dive on into it, but it has a lot of tools built in. Now, the older version of this, when I looked at before, it was in a way sort of lame because basically when there, it had some Christian wallpapers and a few Christian applications, and that was about it. This new one, though, does a lot of fun modifications in the background, from family parental controls to time limits on the system, so you can set up your kids with their own account. You can have them limited by the software. It has content filters, so you can block all those bad, nasty things through a couple different methods. One is a DNS over HTTPS protocol, something I've not been a huge fan of, but nevertheless, there are applications for it. The other one, though, is a host file blocking system, which I like way better, so long as, the people you're preventing off of those things don't have access to be able to change things. There's one of the downsides of that. But nevertheless, they do also have some church software as well and a few other tools. So having a look at their website, we have web content filtering, we have DNS Minder, we have Host Minder, and yeah, you can install all this stuff onto your regular Ubuntu, but it's basically Ubuntu with all this stuff configured. So if you're looking for an Ubuntu that has parental filters and controls, this might be a good option for you. So there's the parental control dialog, which I found a little bit more limited than Elementary's parental controls are still way better, I think. But the time limit sets allows you to limit how much time each individual user account has online. We have our Bible study software. They have Bible Time, Xiphos, and Bible Edit included. There's software for churches, OpenLP, which I've not been able to get to work. We have Presenter for worship tools, Free Show, and of course some wallpapers. So Jeremy is the one, I think it's Jeremy is the name. He's the one I've been in correspondence with in regards to putting this out. And then there are a few other people involved in there as well. And as we said, it's not meant to be anything more than basically trying to get a good Christian feel with the content filters, the Christian software, the Christian tools for churches without reinventing everything, so it's going to look very much like regular Ubuntu. Before we dive much further into that, the The basic installation is pretty much exactly the same you find with Ubuntu. Same installer, same basic options. There's a minimal install and a regular install. I have no idea what happens with the minimal install, being that this is Ubuntu with some extra software. Everything else out of the box is basically just Ubuntu. And so I went through and did some initial configurations, and I set up just a few of the softwares, and I set up some of the content filters just to get a brief feel of it before we dive on in. But with that, let's go ahead and see what this looks like together. When we first launch into it, we have a welcome screen. The Ubuntu Christian Edition is a free open source operating system geared towards Christians based on Ubuntu. So the goal is to bring power and security of Ubuntu to Christians. It does not attempt to rebrand Ubuntu, and they are operating under all of the Ubuntu guidelines. They reached out to Ubuntu, said, what are the guidelines you want us to follow? They responded back, and so they have followed all of those Ubuntu guidelines. So along with the standard application, so it has everything that's going to come stock on Ubuntu. So we have our Office suites, we have our games. I don't know, though, card games on Christian. Some Christians will have a problem with that. I don't. I'm just making fun of us Christians, okay? Here's the utilities. Here's Vim, the Ubuntu software, which is going to be a Snap software store. So everything here is basically Ubuntu. It's just we have a few extra tools. After the installation, we can change our wallpapers. I did change this nice coffee and a Bible. That's my ideal morning. And we have the theme, which just takes us to the brand new Ubuntu theme changer where you can basically select your colors. So I changed this bluish, kind of match the coffee cup in the picture. We have our documentation, and then we have two web filtering. So the host minder is the one that is going to utilize your host file. Your DNS minder is going to control your the basic DNS of your system. So right now, what I did is you just open this guy up and just hit your change provider, and you have clean browsing, open DNS family shield, 1111 for families, and AdGuard family DNS. So you have a few different options there. We'll go ahead and just close that out. And then the host minder, this is the one that actually configures your host file. And if you click on this, you can choose, do you want just ads and bad pictures on the internet blocked? Do you want to add gambling to that? I mean, there's social, there's fake news. I'm not sure what their definition of fake news is. That's going to be based on HostMinder, but that's kind of interesting. And you also have the ability to do an edit list. So if, for example, your social blocks a website that you do want your kids or your computer to have access to, you can go ahead and add the domain here. It's going to add this to the safe list and take that off of your host file. So you have some good options. Let's hit no on that so we don't have to sit through all of that. The next tool, we have our Bible study. Bible Time is, of course, the one that I generally recommend and use. I just found that overall it works most versatility. There are some people that probably prefer Xiphos. I did a video on this channel comparing the two a couple years ago. I'll go ahead and link that one on the cards. And then we have a nice terminal-based King James Version Bible. Isn't that cool? Let's do... let's do one that I've already tested. So 1 Timothy 3:16, and there you go. You get a read out of 1 Timothy 3:16. You just hit the enter, and it just takes you through verse at a time. Quick cue to quit. That's just awesome. I mean, I like that. I wonder if I can get that in other translations as well. We have Bull's Bible, Bible Edit, Son of Man. I'm not familiar with either of those. Church software. OpenLP is one that I've been told about and would like to take a look at. Unfortunately, it seems to be broken in my situation. I'm not sure if that's a global thing. Jeremy, if you're watching this, you want to look into that, or I'll get you some details. Basically, I'm running this on a virtual machine, and anytime I attempt to open it, I get nondescript error there. Who knows? Maybe it's the theme I have selected. I don't know. I went through the configuration, chose most of the defaults, and went through there. We have Floodlight Presenter, we have Free Show. These are all different software packages that your church might be interested in. So if you have a church that's kind of wants to get away from Microsoft a little bit, there are some open source applications that will help you with screen projections and other things inside the church circumstances. OpenLP even allows you to download open source versions of songs and things things like that. I really want to get this to work, so I will poke around with it and do that as a later video. And then we have our family settings. We already saw the host minder and DNS minder. The parental controls, we need to unlock it. Make sure we are logged in with an administrator account. And then you can see kids. Basically what I did is I added a user account called kids. And in here, we can restrict the web browsers, we can restrict applications, but really the only applications it can pick from are the ones that are here. We can't tell it like, open, LibreOffice or any of the other applications. For some reason, it's only allows you to restrict these applications. Very interesting. This is why I like the parental controls on elementary OS better, because it does give you a lot more control over applications. Or who knows, maybe I just don't know how to use this tool, but we can do sorting things out there as well. We also have our timekeeper. Also requires our administrative account, and then you can come in here and you can select individual usernames, and then you can give them however many hours a day you want your kids to be on the internet. So additional time for user has been processed. Here's your limitations, so you can set them in on times, on dates, give them more time on the weekend if you want. So, and then here's your session types. So there's a little bit more to this application. I'm not as familiar with this one, but in theory, this is going to allow us to set timing limitations on our individual software. So that is basically what we get. We have a nice icon up here, which is going to give us our limits and configurations, and continuous time left. Oh, we only have an hour left before I have to shut down. No, I didn't know I limited myself. Oh, well, it might lock me out of my computer. No. Everything else over here is fairly standard applications. You are getting a basic Ubuntu. So out of the box, this guy is going to work pretty well because Ubuntu generally works pretty well. Not my personal cup of tea or a cup of coffee, but nevertheless, it does work. It works well. It works well with a lot of hardware. And this does give us a good option for people wanting a pre-configured, pre-set up Christian-based operating system that you don't have to add a bunch of things. I want to add parental controls, I want to add my Bible software, things like that. So could you take your regular Ubuntu and add all this stuff to it? You absolutely can, but this will take that step out. Particularly good for churches who want to have an operating system without having to take a ton of time to basically to install something and set everything up and all that kind of stuff. So it's a good time saver for people who don't know quite as much about getting everything all set up. So there's the Ubuntu Christian Edition. It is back based on the latest version of Ubuntu. It looks pretty good, and I'm going to play around with some of the presenter software on this because I would like to get some of these guys working, and I really want to see what the ability and the power of these presenter softwares can do, and see if that's something that we promote for churches as well. So with that, there's the Ubuntu Christian Edition. I will have my own Christian YouTube channel linked down below as well. The website for this distribution down there as well. So have a look at it and see what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.